This is Sarah Squires with today's edition of WyoToday Newsroom. Today on the show, reporter Austin Beck-Doss sits down with John Zerga, candidate for the Fremont County Sheriff's seat. Here's Austin with the story.
And good morning. This is Austin Beck-Doss, features reporter with WyoToday. I am in the studio this morning with John Zerga, who is running for county sheriff. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Perfect. Thank you.
Good. Glad to have you with us. Thanks for joining. It's neat to learn about the folks who are working towards leading significant departments in the county, and with the election slowly approaching, we're glad to have you in to share a little bit more about your intentions should you be elected to this office, and your experience working in law enforcement in Fremont County, which I understand goes very deep. I know you went to Lander Valley High School, and from there you pretty quickly set your sights on a career in local law enforcement, and that's what you've been up to ever since. Would you mind just kind of taking us through the career arc and telling us about your experience?
Absolutely. I always wanted to pursue a law enforcement career. I just felt that I needed help, and this was just a career that I wanted to pursue. So I actually sent myself to the Wyoming Law Enforcement Academy when I graduated in 1999 from the Wyoming Law Enforcement Academy. My first job was as a park ranger at Boysen State Park. I did a season at Boysen. From there, I went back to Natrona County, had an open position as a detention officer. As I was working that, I had a chance to meet the current sheriff of Fremont County again. Basically, he asked why I was working in Natrona County when I was from Fremont County. So through that, he invited me back to Fremont County, which was great. I started Du Bois as a patrol deputy. There I met my wife. Du Bois is a great area to work. I love the area. I'm an avid fisherman, avid hunter, and I just enjoyed my time in Du Bois. My wife was pursuing a career as a nurse. We didn't want her traveling on the road, so we transferred to Riverton. So she continued her career, or her schooling at CWC. Mm-hmm. From there, I worked in the Riverton Patrol Division. I eventually transferred to Lander after her nursing. After she graduated nursing, we transferred back to Lander. I was a patrol deputy in Lander for several years. I had several DUI awards from the governor from my enforcement career there. I then promoted to detective. Running that role of detective, I worked a lot of felony cases. I also worked several cold cases, some high-profile cases that are pretty interesting. Did at least 3 years in investigations. Then I decided to promote to patrol sergeant. At that point, I supervised my deputies. I really supported the deputies. I would cover shifts for them if they weren't able to. Really proactive and tried to work with my deputies to make them the best deputies for Fremont County. Just trying to always be for them. I just kind of view us as a close-knit family. So from that, after working several years as a patrol deputy, I actually promoted to lieutenant with the sheriff's office. I've worked that for the last 7 years. I feel like through my career, and I want to get to the goal of where I always wanted to be, and that's sheriff. And so that's the way I kind of constructed my career, was basically, moving up through the chain of command, working every area I could, covered in the entire Fremont County. So I feel like I have a good understanding of the people and the public and their needs. And I'm hoping to get the support of Fremont County so I can pursue my goal and my dream of being sheriff of Fremont County.
Yeah, thanks for taking us through that, John. I'm curious about a couple phases of that career arc that you've just shared. One that I think is maybe unique as far as campaigning for sheriff is time spent as a park ranger at Boysen. I know that was some time ago now, but does that experience continue to inform how you think about law enforcement, or what did you take away from time in that role?
Absolutely. I loved being a park ranger out there. Like I said, I'm an avid fisherman, so I did some enforcement out there. I mostly went around and talked to the fishermen to figure out where the fish were biting, so I could show up there the next day. So no, it was a really fun part. It was a good place to start my career. I learned a lot out there. I had a really good training officer. And that was a good place to start my career. I just enjoyed working Boysen in that area. So
nice. Yeah, and the fact that you've worked in so many of Fremont County's communities, like you said, must result in a sort of a unique perspective on the similarities between those communities and their law enforcement needs, and also some of the unique challenges that each one faces. So maybe you could share with us a little bit of your sense of the county through that lens. Like, what are some of the kind of key differences in how in this role you would approach law enforcement in, say, Lander versus Riverton or Du Bois or other parts of the county?
Sure. Starting out in Du Bois, it's a really unique area. The problem with Du Bois, which they're somewhat resolving, was when I first started working Du Bois, you were the only deputy out there. So the way you treat people, the way you contact people, your backup's a long ways away. Du Bois, for the most part, although all the traffic and speed enforcement going through there, people traveling at a high rate of speed, is kind of laid back, but when stuff happens in Du Bois, it can get crazy in a hurry, and you got to realize when this stuff happens, you're the only one up there, so it's up to you to resolve this. And the reason I say that is I tell the deputies that I've trained. I was an FTO officer. The way you talk to people, the way you treat people, is how you are able to maintain what you're dealing with. You kind of control the situation. If you get yourself worked up, and then things can get out of hand. So if you can keep it on a level pace, that's the way I've trained. That's the way I operate, and I try to work that way. Transferring to Riverton, it's a whole different area. You don't have to look for you don't have to look for things out in Riverton. It's you're almost called to call. That's the way things go here. Very busy atmosphere. A lot of drug activity, a lot of property crimes. It just keeps you busy. And I mean, you can be proactive, you can look for things, but in Riverton, you don't have a lot of time for that, because it seems like our deputies are called to call. And so I would like to, provide more deputies and more training and more equipment so they can efficiently do a better job in that. And like you said, we transfer over to Lander, and Lander, it's a really nice area. I call it a retirement center area, but we still got our deputies out there proactive. A lot of less call volume. It's a nice area for our guys to work. But the idea with all areas is our guys just have to be out there. And I think by being seen and being proactive, I think that eliminates a lot of the crimes.
So we do look through the police blotters ahead of every newspaper publishing deadline here at the office, and it is interesting just to kind of mark the differences in that call volume from Riverton Police Department versus Lander Police Department versus the county. And I imagine as sheriff, having to kind of be considerate of each of those places individually, but also as a united county, kind of, requires some coordination and a deep familiarity with what those communities really are. And it kind of from that, I think I'd like to ask you broadly what some of your priorities would be as sheriff. I imagine that over the decades, as the county has shifted through industry and cultural changes and different waves of things that affect, law enforcement, priorities change over time. And so what we might need in the county from the sheriff's office now might not be the same as it was when you started. But from this moment, kind of looking into the near future, what would be some of those priorities for you as far as Fremont County overall?
Yeah, my main is community safety. I definitely want my deputies out to respond to calls quickly and appropriately and safely, and when they get on scene, treat people with respect. I want the guys out there. I want them to be seen, and in higher crime areas. I mean, I'm sure the latest news is Gardens North has caught a lot of attention for the crime and stuff that's gone out in the Riverton area.
Right.
So I believe that, that should be an extra patrol area. I think our deputies, when they have time, should be more available out in those high crime areas to be seen, and it might eliminate. I'm really concerned on the drugs in Fremont County. When I first started my career, drugs has always been the issue. It was cocaine, it was heroin. As I went through my career, it started methamphetamines. But now fentanyl is huge, and fentanyl's in almost a lot of the calls that we go to. It's something we really need to focus on, trying to find solutions for this, which I think is a good thing. We're bringing 2 dogs on board. That's going to assist the sheriff's office in trying to eliminate some of our drug issues here, because I honestly believe the drug problems here are what creates most of our other crime. I mean, if you think about, people using drugs, how do they get the money for the drugs? That's where you get the stolen properties, and when they're using drugs, that's where you get the assaults and homicides and other things. So it's all drug related. So I really wanted to focus helping and assisting with DCI, and having a team out there to really focus on what we have going on in the public.
Yeah, you mentioned the dogs that will be coming on as part of the sheriff's department, and I know those will be paid for through some opioid settlement funds, and that's a story that I've been following locally. And since you mentioned it, I'm curious about your thoughts on this. There's some debate during that decision-making process as to whether or not canine units sort of meet the criteria for opioid use prevention, and it sounds like you do feel like there's a connection there in a way that those dogs would help the community in its tackling of the opioid issues that we deal with. But maybe you could kind of just fill us in a little bit more about how that really looks inside of a department. Like, how do dogs interact with calls, and when are they deployed, and how does that sort of help to address the problem?
Absolutely. When you're out on patrol and you make a stop and you suspect drugs, you have to be really thorough about how you're able to obtain entry into a vehicle where you suspect drugs, and a lot of questioning and stuff. So by having drug dogs available when you make traffic stops, it's just going to help us assist with those things in getting into the vehicle, because as they run around the vehicle, if they hit on the vehicles, then that gives us the probable cause to get into the vehicles. So alcohol, it's different when you talk to people, and you can sense and you can smell when they're under the influence of alcohol, and it's a really easier DUI to get to. But when it's drug related and you're thinking drugs, it's a little harder to develop the case on drug related DUIs and stuff. So these dogs, having them available, and I think just the public knowing that they're out there should eliminate some of the stuff we have going on, but they're definitely going to assist us in doing our jobs better. These dogs also, when people flee in high-speed pursuits and they run for us and they go out on foot, a lot of times it's nighttime and they're really hard to track. So these dogs also will be available to assist us, when people try to get away, or even to try to de-escalate things. When you watch any type of live PDs and dogs show up, for some reason that barking of the dog or just the visible of the dog, people don't want to get bit or they don't want to get attacked by a dog. So it definitely could, it could resolve the situations without even using the dog. So I think they're going to benefit us really well. Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for that. I've been kind of curious as this debate has gone back and forth about how much dogs would help. I've been curious to hear an experienced law enforcement perspective on that, just because I don't really know how that works in the field. But I know that you have long held this goal of being county sheriff, and in Fremont County specifically, and your career, as you walked us through, does have this clear process of working towards something, rising through the ranks. You've served as lieutenant for the past 7 years, I believe. So over that time and moving through the departments, have you developed a few key aspects of what you would call your approach to leadership? And if so, what are those, and how would they be a part of your time as sheriff?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that, because working through my career, I've obviously worked under several different sheriffs, several different supervisors. There's different types of leadership. There's directors and there's leaders. And, working with the agency in the 26 years, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different ones. And so through that time frame, I see the way I want to operate, and it's kind of the way I've run my life is, I lead by example. I wouldn't ask my deputies to do anything I wouldn't do myself, and I like positive relationships. We try to keep, we keep our people in. We know their families, and we keep a really close-knit relationship. So as a leader, I believe in teamwork, and I believe you surround yourself with supervisors that have the same goals in mind as you do. Ethics, morals, we're all working on the same thing. So I think by providing equipment, providing training, and just a good environment to where your officers feel like they're needed, and it's not all about the money. It's if you can create an atmosphere where your deputies and your staff want to come to work, and they like the supervisors that are over them. Money's important, but just having a good relationship, a good place to work where they feel comfortable, that's my ultimate goal is just, I want them out there. I want them proactive. I want them out doing their jobs, and we're going to give all the tools and equipment to do that. But I also want them to feel like they can come to me at any time, and I'll do whatever I can to if they have an issue or a problem, try to get that resolved.
Right. And I know that locally, our agencies and departments have in recent years at times faced challenges around recruitment and also retention. And from what I understand, those trends have kind of aligned with some broader regional and national trends too around law enforcement recruitment. And so as far as leadership and creating a culture of teamwork, as you've just mentioned, is that related also to bringing new energy and committed members into our agencies and departments? And aside from that, as a leader, what can be done to kind of to address those issues when they arise and to bring the people in that can serve the community?
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. When I first started law enforcement, it was kind of a sought-after position. You were respected, and people respected law enforcement. There's been a lot of stuff out in the media that portrays law enforcement not so good lately, and it makes it harder in this time to bring people on board because of maybe bad social media or it's not a real high-paying career, so you have to have the desire to, want to help people. That's why you get into law enforcement. That's why I got into law enforcement, because I want to help the victims that can't help themselves. So today's day, when we go on calls, people have cell phones in your face all the time, and they're trying to get you to do something that violates their rights. So you're put in a lot of bad spots So you just gotta do everything. I think as long as you follow ethics and morals, and that's just the way you operate, you're gonna be fine with that, and you treat people with respect, knowing that there's a camera on you all the time. That's just the way you have to act. So yeah, trying to bring somebody on today, money would be a great way, but it's just through the commissioners and stuff, there's not a lot of money out there. So we definitely got to work on federal grants and getting and working with the commissioners to try to find out how we can get the best officers in the areas that we need. And we just got to find a way to promote that. And by doing or having an office where people talk about you, I think that's my ultimate goal. Is I've always told Lander PD and RPD, and I try to steal their officers. They make more money than ours, but I've always said that I want to be that agency that says, hey, that's who I want to come work for. The way they treat their people, even though they're not making the money, people work for less money, but the way how they're handled and how they're treated, it's what people talk about. And I think I just want to be that agency where everybody says, man, that's the guy I want to come to work for.
Yeah, and you just touched on this there, but funding challenges and dispersing resources such that departments across our county and across the state can do what they're designed to do has been a challenge recently as well. And I'm curious if you have more to share on what you've learned about in a leadership role, advocating for resources, seeking out creative ways to acquire the funding and the support that you need to make sure the folks that you're leading have the resources to allow them to do their job. So is there any kind of approach to that you think, as far as the way things are done currently in the county, there's room to grow and you could be the person to actualize that?
Yeah, so it's tough. It's tough with our money situation. So basically what we'll have to do is sit down with the commissioners and provide them the information of why we need the funding to promote for the officers and get them on board with, the newest and latest equipment that's out there to make the jobs more safe. We definitely got to find, I want to get with grant writers, so we don't have to spend so much of that money that could be provided for the officers if we didn't have to spend it on equipment. So I definitely want to try to bring a grant writer or somebody familiar with that to get us the funding to assist with that. And we just got to all work together with all the other agencies. I've explained to them we're all in this together, and we're all doing the same job. All agencies. We just all need to come together to do this job.
All right, John, I know you enjoy fishing. I don't know how much that stems from your time at Boyson or if that goes even further back, but outside of that hobby, how do you spend your time beyond your career? Are you out enjoying the outdoors on the weekends? Do you prefer quiet time at home or a little bit of both? Maybe just tell us a little more about your life outside of work.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So growing up here in Lander, my dad got us out into the hunting and fishing, and we just enjoy the outdoors, backpacking, hiking. I'm an avid bowler also. I'm not bragging. I have bowled 4 300 games, but
nice.
That's cool. That's a pretty good accomplishment. So I really enjoy being out with the guys in the public and bowling. I do try to get out a lot and fish. My family, that's the way I brought up my kids. We were always out, above Fremont County on the Loop Road, camping, fishing, and it's just a great way to, your family should grow up that way. My dad did that with us, and I think by being active with your kids and stuff and growing up that way and giving them that opportunity is just the way to go.
Yeah, I've written a couple stories about some bowlers in the community, and I get the sense that it's a small community but pretty tight-knit, and if you're into it, there are places to go and a community to join. Absolutely.
I enjoy bowling. I bowl 2 nights a week. I just enjoy being with those guys. If you don't bowl, I would get with it. It's just a good group of people, a good group of guys to hang out with for a couple hours, to relieve a lot of stress. So, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, all right, John, is there anything else that you would like to share as your campaign moves toward the election later this year?
Yeah, I just really appreciate the opportunity. I'm hoping that through all the information that I've given you guys, that we can move forward with this. I would really like the opportunity to serve this county as sheriff. That's my ultimate goal, and I think I could provide a really good sheriff for the public to come to, an open door policy, and I'm looking forward to any concerns that the community has. I've always been that way, so I just appreciate your backing. Thank you.
All right, thanks again for coming in, John.
Thank you.
That was Austin Beck-Doss with John Zerga, candidate for Fremont County Sheriff's Office. If you're looking for a better way to relax, especially after a long Wyoming day, stop by Porter's Mountain View Supply in Riverton. Porter's offers quality hot tubs built for comfort, durability, and year-round enjoyment. They also carry everything you need to keep your hot tub running smoothly. That includes chemicals and water care products, filters, covers, steps, and replacement parts, along with accessories that make ownership easy and enjoyable. Porter's Mountain View Supply is located at 750 East Sunset Drive in Riverton. Give them a call at 307-856-6066.